Should you start a car rental business in 2026? Now, in the next hour, I'm basically going to help you decide with zero hype if this business makes sense for you. And to give you some background, we're coaching new and seasoned hosts every single week. And the people that are winning right now in 2026 are the people that have the right playbook. What does that look like? They have the right car, the right price, and they have the right system in place so that the car consistently gets rented. And look, if you're the kind of person where you tried Turo in 2024, 2025, and it didn't work. Why didn't it work? Well, maybe you had a claim or your car wasn't getting booked and there were surprise costs. What I'm going to show you in this video is how do you overcome those obstacles and get a consistent income from this. And to give you a little bit more background, my name's Peter. I'm the car rental coach. I have my own fleet of 40 plus cars based out of Pittsburgh. We've helped hundreds of Turo hosts start or scale their business. It's what we do every day. And I review listings across multiple markets, basically rebuild people's systems, and help hosts turn boring everyday compact economy vehicles into vehicles that actually make money. And for those of you that haven't been to the channel, I'm not here to sell you a dream. I'm here to tell you the reality of it. And typically people that are on this channel, you fall into one of three groups. First one, you're researching this business to see if it even makes sense. Second group of people, you tried Turo before and it didn't work with you. Again, whether if it was claims or slow bookings or you were getting bad reviews, it just didn't work. Or you're somebody that's operating the business right now in 2026 and you want to figure out, hey, how do I get fewer headaches for that business and make it make sense? Now, here's what we're going to cover from start to finish. We're going to say what changed from 2024 to 2025, specifically through demand shifts, insurance claims, and how the guest behavior has changed over this amount of time. We're also going to go over how do you make money in 2026? Where do your vehicles need to be priced? What are the changes that Turo's made with their algorithm that you can take advantage of to keep your vehicle listed? I also want to go over basically the do's and don'ts of getting started with this. And to go into specifics of that, it's going to look like the budget do's and don'ts, what should you be doing with your time, and basically market testing. And also, if you get into this business and it doesn't work, what's your exit plan? Now, in this 60-day roadmap, we're going to show you, again, how do you get momentum, get your first 5 reviews, make your first $1,000, and how do you get your first upsell without, or I would say more so, with making money? Now, real quick, if you're sitting here thinking, I don't live in a huge city, I can't afford a luxury car like a Tesla, BMW, or Mercedes. What if my car gets into an accident? I don't get the money for it. That's good because those are all things we're going to be talking about. And just to throw it out there, you don't need a luxury car. You don't need 10 hours a day. What you need is a simple system in an economy type car that can make you money. And again, I'm not here to convince you to get into this business. If you go and you do a market report and it doesn't make sense in your area, then it's probably not the business for you where you are. But if you do still want to do it, I can give you some alternatives for what might make sense in different markets or partnering up with different hosts. Now, to get into this video, let's talk about what has changed really from like 2024 to 2025. Now, before we talk about cars and prices or a launch plan, we need to answer this question, which is what was that change between 24 to 25 and what makes 2026 different? And I want to put it in there that if you do the same things that you did this year that you were doing last year and the year before, you're not just going to lose money. You're going to lose time, you're going to lose momentum, and you're going to lose confidence. And if you stick through me through this section in a few minutes, I'm basically going to give you a simple pass or fail that'll let you know if this business actually works in your market. Now, to go into this a little bit, which is what is a big thing that's changed in the last couple years, is that demand has shifted with Turo from fun more so to function. And what do I mean by that? Basically, from this like 2024 to 25, a lot of bookings were aspirational, right? A lot of like cool weekend cars, road trip cars, treat yourself moments. And basically through 2024 to 25, That's soft. And the main thing I want to focus on here, where I'm not saying that luxury cars don't work, they do work in a lot of markets. I'm saying that economy cars work in the majority of markets. And basically, I'm going to liken this to the idea of, let's say, groceries versus cupcakes, right? Groceries are what you need every single day to get through your life. Cupcakes are something that are more of a treat. There is more of a demand for those everyday groceries than there are for cupcakes. And that's what we want to focus on. And I'm going to give you a pattern that I consistently see throughout my calls. I'll actually give you an example. There's a guy that I worked with, for privacy's sake, let's say his name is Alex. He brought a nice $60,000 SUV. He puts that car for rental in his market, based out of Miami. Car made $1,000 a month. I have another client that bought a $12,000 SUV. She put that same car on, not exactly in Miami, but in a comparable market. It was in LA, and she made $1,000 off of it. And the point that I want to get across here is that a lot of people get caught up in the fact is that they need these fancy vehicles because they're going to make more money, or the newer vehicles make significantly more money. And it's really not the case. A lot of the times it's pretty even. A big significant thing that I'll see between like the newer cars versus the older cars is that, okay, it might make 100 or 200 extra dollars per month, which might equate to an extra, let's say, $1,200 or $1,400 per year. But does it make sense to spend an extra $30,000 or $40,000 on a car, or actually, in the case of that example, an extra $50,000 to get maybe an extra $1,000? The math doesn't add up. Now, another big thing that I want people to think about is how claims have changed. Specifically with Turo, claims have basically gotten stricter. They're much more about having evidence, right? So your pictures are going to be super critical here. And what does that mean? It means, are you taking a lot of pictures? Front, back, interior, exterior. I typically like to see 30 to like 60 pictures before and after on a trip basis. And also, are those pictures time stamped? Turo's looking at a lot of these things now to say, like, okay, did these people do it the right way? And if you do it the right way, it's not a question now of, oh, I hope I'm going to get covered. Now you're actually talking about how you're going to get the money before this. Now, again, if you go back to that 2024 to 2025 time, we can all agree that the claims process was a little bit easier, as in you didn't have to be as strict with your pictures or have them timestamped. You basically got the money if your car got into an accident. Now you really have to follow those processes to get the money that you want. And another thing I want to touch on, which is what has changed, is the guests have gotten a little bit pickier, which is why Turo changed their entire review process. And I'm not even saying that it's suddenly that they're demanding luxury cars. It's more so that guests want a little bit more honesty, right? So if you say that, hey, I have a 2020 Honda Civic and it's like new, but it has stains on the seats, it's got a couple scratches, and it has dents on it, that's more so where guests are getting picky and they're leaving bad reviews, which is why Turo changed the review system from just being 1 to 5 stars for a couple categories to, I guess, around like 4 or 5 categories now, because they want to know, okay, what was the communication like? What was the maintenance like? What was your overall experience like? Because Turo wants to make sure that the guest is happy. Let me tell you how important that this is now. Let's say that you put that your 2020 Honda is like new and you have a massive dent on the side, and your guest gives you a 1 star for, let's say, reliability or overall experience. Not only are you telling other guests now that, oh, I don't really tell the truth about my listing, you're also telling Turo and their algorithm that this person's description didn't necessarily align with what this vehicle actually was. Another thing I want to touch on, which has changed significantly, is rates. We did go essentially from this manual pricing model to dynamic pricing. And with the dynamic pricing, it's not a set it and forget it thing. You need to be looking at your market consistently to see, okay, am I in a busy time of the year? And I'll give you an example. Your rates are going to be different right now in September than what they are going to be in the busiest time of the year, November and December, where you would have to adjust your rates accordingly. Ideally, that's when you can make more money. But if you have your same rates as what they are now, you could be missing, right? Now, Another change here is that I would say that Turo is becoming a little bit more sophisticated in the competition, which is that you do have a lot of people just like you guys that are watching this video, and you see this now as in business opportunity, where if you have capital and you put it into this and you have a proper execution plan, you can get a significant income from this. You're not the only person that's thinking this. A lot of people around the country are. So now it leads us to this point, which is how do we stand out from sophisticated players? And just to preface here, the majority of players are not sophisticated. There are just more sophisticated players coming in. So how do you differentiate yourself? Well, you do some research, you watch videos like this, and I'm going to give you some tidbits. What is the algorithm looking for right now? It's looking for the proper pictures, proper description. It wants your pricing to be in order. It wants your discounts to be in order. You want to check on your delivery settings. And there's around like 10 to 15 other settings that go into that determine if your vehicle is going to be high up on the algorithm or lower on the algorithm. And to throw it out there, if you're tired of basically doing research and trying to figure out if this is going to work, we do have a program at carrentalcoach.com. I do want to preface this though, it is only for people that if you are really serious about growing a car rental business, there's a quick survey to fill out on there. If you're qualified to work with us, me or a member of my team will get on a call with you personally and we'll see if there's a way that we can help. And if we can help, you'll get invited into our Slack community. You'll have one-on-one access specifically to someone that has built their own Turo business and is making a significant income off of this. So another thing I wanted to touch on, which is how important is it to get the right vehicle? And how do we find the right vehicle? Well, the first thing is doing market research. Really simple for you guys watching this video. Go on Turo, basically do it for a month in advance, see what vehicles are available, go and look at their previous reviews and see, okay, does it look like this car is consistently getting rented? And another little secret, if you're at the end of the month, like let's say you're at the end of September and you want to book for the 29th and the 30th, the algorithm will actually show you how many days that host had that vehicle rented out for. You can see exactly how often that their vehicle was rented out. So that's going to be the first big thing, is that you got to get the right car. The second thing is that you must get a vehicle. Typically, I like cars that are going to pay themselves off within a 6 to 12 month time frame. So you want to get it ideally for between 10 to 20% off of MSRP. Past that, just like I was talking about, you have to do what the algorithm wants so that your vehicle gets rented, and then you want to build systems around this. And basically, again, what exactly is this quick test for part one to see if the market research makes sense? Go to your city, ideally at the end of the month, put that you want to book for one day, and then look at all those vehicles, take a look at their profile and see how many days were they rented, and also go on that guest profile and see if they're getting good reviews. Because you're not going to get a good idea to see, are people doing well in your market if somebody is consistently getting 1 to 3 star reviews, because Turo actually boots people like that off the platform. You want to look for people that have maybe been on for a year or two and look at their vehicles to see how they're producing. Now, the next thing that I'm going to do here, and basically nobody wants to do it on YouTube, which is I'm going to draw how do you actually profit here in 2026. And I'm going to start, which is that it's basically the boring cars, for lack of a better term. It's these economy cars that those are the ones that rent, and they're the ones that profit for us. Now, let's get specific about what do I mean about this, right? How are we going to map out this profit lane, and how do these economy cars actually make us money? Think about it this way. The majority of markets in the United States are not New York City. They're not Vegas. They're not LA. They're not Miami. So those luxury type of vehicles, that's not what everybody is looking for across the country. You know what people are looking for? Is a car that can get them from point A to point B. They want a vehicle that's reliable, that's relatively less expensive, that they can use to get around. And also they're looking for vehicles that are fuel efficient, of course, because nobody wants to spend a ton of money on gas. You know it, I know it, gas is expensive, less is best on the gas side. But anyway, so people are looking for these economy vehicles. Now, specifically when it comes to, let's say, vehicles that I think are reliable, think like Civics, Elantras, Sentras, Forte, Yaris's, Priuses, cars that specifically, again, low miles per gallon, and they're easy to get around in. And now this is something that is specifically a part of our system. And the reason why we're like this, and I'll tell you what I mean first, which is I'm not the biggest fan of luxury cars. And the reason why is because we're based out of Pittsburgh. That's actually what we started with. I hate to admit it, but started out with 5 luxury cars. And basically, what we found out is that we were just netting less on those cars because the expenses were so much higher. What do I mean by that? Well, actually, I'll give you a prime example. Car I mention all the time on this channel, a Mitsubishi Mirage. I want to get 4 tires on a Mitsubishi Mirage. I can get that done plus labor, and I have connections, keep in mind, for around $250, $300. For a Mercedes, oh my gosh, we're talking almost $1,000 for that same exact thing. And this is where you have to evaluate, does it make sense for you to buy a car? A used Mirage you can get right now for, I mean, like 8 to 12,000, or do you get a used Mercedes for 20 or 30,000? I don't know if the Mercedes makes enough money. Well, typically it doesn't make enough money where that makes sense after you have to deal with all of these maintenance issues. And that's something that I would basically say is like a silent profit killer that most people think, oh yeah, luxury is going to crush it. I'll make so much more money. But they don't think about how much more that the maintenance is for vehicles of that nature. And look, here's another thing that I hear. Well, why don't I get a Tesla? Teslas are good cars. But again, does it make sense to spend all that money? Because even tire changes, brakes on Teslas are a little bit different because they have the regenerative braking, but I had one personally, so I know what the expenses look like. I'd rather get an economy vehicle. Now, let's basically talk about the checklist for what I'm looking for when I'm purchasing a vehicle. So basically, the first thing is that ideally I'm looking for the miles to be below 90,000, around 45 to 80K miles. Ideally, I'd like to get cars for between 7,500 to 12,500 out the door. And I want everything to be set with this car. I want it where it has good tires, it has good brakes. Ideally a vehicle that has a, how do I say this, a reliable transmission where it doesn't have a history of giving people a lot of problems. Basically, when it comes to trim, I'm not looking for anything exotic. And so specifically with history, which a lot of people don't tell you this, your vehicles must be clean title. You can't get anything with rebuild or salvage. You really don't want the vehicle to have any airbag deployments, nothing in regards to flood. And you want maintenance records that are relatively clean, that it was serviced at one place, and ideally it's a place that you know that's reliable. And also, when it comes to fuel, you want to get vehicles that are fuel efficient. What does that mean? I like it to be like 25 to around 40 miles to the gallon. Now, when I'm evaluating vehicles, I have a checklist where I'm looking at all of these things. If it passes all of these, then it's a great vehicle. If it misses one or two, then I'm going to evaluate it to see, like, okay, does this actually make sense? Now, the next thing that I want to talk about, which is that it's okay, that's how you actually find or do your market research, find a vehicle, well, basically do the checklist to see if a vehicle is good. Now let's talk about how do we move our vehicle up in the algorithm. So one of the first things is that the pictures that you're taking. And another weird thing about Turo, you want to take pictures that are between 10 to 12 feet away because Turo has this weird zoom in function when you actually upload the picture. So that's the first thing. And you want to take very clean professional pictures. Well, when I say professional, they can be on your iPhone. I mean, I've never had a professional person take the pictures. I've always just done it on there, and it's done pretty well. Now, the next thing when you start this out, so pictures are big, description's big, pricing is going to be a big one. Make sure you look at that dynamic pricing and look at it. I mean, I would look at it every couple days when you're starting, or if you're a seasoned host, to make sure that you're in line with what's going on with the market. Reviews are critical in the algorithm right now. When you're starting, you need to get as many 5 stars as you can. So make sure that you're giving that premium experience. The car is up to date on maintenance. The car is super clean. It doesn't smell. And also, it's not making any weird noises, to say the least. Even if that's not a maintenance thing, maybe it's the wheel bearing or something weird, make sure that your car is solid. Now, also, I want to talk about, let's say that, all right, I've adhered to the algorithm, my vehicle's renting. Peter, what are you talking about when you're saying adjusting the price? I'm saying that there are certain times that are going to be more busy than others, such as the weekends. During the weekends, more people are renting out cars. that might be an opportunity for you to bump up your prices a little bit. And so, busiest times of the year, that November through December time, also during the summer, like the June, July, a little bit of August, make sure that you're adjusting your pricing during those times because you can basically make more money. And for me, when it comes to the discounts, I'd start out having the discounts in there and adjust them however you think. You just want to have something basically so that you can get this vehicle rented. And I know what you're thinking. Hey, look, if I start out low here on the discounts and won't I attract guests that are more so problems? Well, think about it this way. We're not saying to leave it at that low price forever. We just want it at a low price so we can get reviews. And for those of you that are unfamiliar with the term, we're basically trying to get social proof, which shows other people that are looking to rent, like, oh, Peter's reliable. He cares about his vehicle. It's clean. It's up to date. It's not making any noises. I want to show the customer base that, and I want to show Turo that. Now, here's the problem. If you start the other way and you get bad reviews, now you're telling guests that you're the problem, and Turo sees that you're the problem. They're definitely going to push you down on the algorithm because Turo doesn't want problems, and guests, they don't want to rent from people that are basically causing issues, right? So overall, reviews are absolutely critical when you're starting out. Or listen, even if you're a seasoned host and your reviews are in the low fours, follow some of these things. Make sure that the vehicle, it's up to date on maintenance, it's clean, it's not making any noises, so that you can consistently get those reviews up. Now, let's talk about what the description needs to look like because I kind of skipped past it and I want to go back. I would go outcome first, right? Which is that the vehicle is clean, it's reliable, the miles per gallon that it gets, it has a phone mount, it has a charger, it has Bluetooth, it has Apple CarPlay. I would throw those things in there. Also, the vehicle library. Make sure that when you're taking these photos, you're taking pictures of all the exterior, the front, back, the sides. I even open up the trunk and I show people that. You also take pictures of the interior. I always take a picture of what the dashboard looks like when they're actually sitting in the driver's side. I also take a picture of the infotainment system because people like to see that stuff. I'll take a picture of the back seats to show them basically how roomy it is and what it looks like. Now, another thing that's important with the algorithm is basically response discipline. If you are going to cancel a trip, cancel it within 24 hours or really above 24 hours of the booking and try to accept as many trips as possible, especially when you're starting, because this is a new metric that Turo is looking at pretty consistently, right? And also, to go back here to the photos for a quick second, they don't have to be professionally done, but they cannot look like garbage. Right? You can't have a blurry photo of a car and the background is a dumpster. Make the vehicle look attractive. If you're taking them on your iPhone, make sure your lenses are clean. And basically, you're standing that 10 to 12 feet away from it so that when it zooms in, it doesn't look weird, and have a decent background. I mean, it doesn't have to be a beach or a beautiful sunset, but don't make it where it's just something that looks bad, like a dumpster or like trash all around it. Make it look nice. Now, another thing I want to throw in there for new hosts, where this is more so for people if you're looking to optimize as much as possible, specifically from a time perspective, get a lockbox for your vehicle. This way, when the guest books the car, you don't have to physically meet them. All it is they'll text you. They'll say like, "Oh, hey, what's the code?" You give them the code. They grab the key out. You tell them, "Hey, if you could keep the lockbox inside of the car while you have it, that would be wonderful." Boom, saves you a significant amount of drive time and an Uber if you were planning on doing delivery. Now, another thing that the algorithm finds super important, which is basically a wide delivery radius. Personally, I'm not the biggest fan of deliveries right now because Turo is discouraging them from an algorithm perspective. Because in a lot of states, they basically have to be as transparent as possible when it comes to all the fees that are included. But if you do want to do deliveries, I would charge anywhere from $50 to $100 for them and make sure that it's a pretty wide radius. Now, when we're actually looking to see that it's okay, I'm running this business, I have money coming in. How do I know if I'm doing well? Let me introduce to you the beautiful idea of a profit and loss statement, which a lot of softwares are out there that do this for you. From QuickBooks, you can have an Excel sheet. It really doesn't matter. But basically, the P&L is going to show you, okay, here is my revenue, here is my expenses. After all expenses, how much money did I actually make? That is going to be your profit. And if I were you, softwares will track it overall. You can also look at this on a per vehicle basis, which is good to look at to know like how much is each vehicle costing. So I would use a combo of QuickBooks and a little bit of the spreadsheets to see that it's like, okay, if a one vehicle has crazy maintenance problems, then maybe we cycle that vehicle out, sell it, get a little bit of money, hopefully we break even or make a couple $100, and then add a new vehicle into the fleet. Okay, now I'm going to tell you a couple vehicles that, not even a couple vehicles, I'm basically going to tell you titles that you can use for your vehicle and a little things that'll help in the description, such as like, okay, you have a 2019 Honda Civic, 38 miles to the gallon, fast and easy pickup. Another example would be let's say a 2020 Kia Forte, budget friendly, clean, and reliable. Third example, throw me on the spot here. We have a 2018 Toyota Camry. It's comfortable, it's great on gas, not really a hassle vehicle. Turo also just made it where they want their descriptions to be more clean and less complicated. So you want to put the things that are important, right? Which is that the vehicle, it's reliable, it's clean, you won't have any surprises with it. You'll have an easy pickup, have clear instructions with the lockbox, everything of that. Actually, that stuff doesn't go in the description. The description is going to specifically be the key things about the vehicle, miles to the gallon, and basically some like extra things that it has. Okay, so now another thing I want to do a deep dive in, which is messaging that is going to create 5-star reviews. And I'll actually give you exactly what I use, which is going to be, this is when the day before the pre-trip. It's going to say, hey, John, excited to meet you. Pickup is really simple. Have basically 2 lines of instructions for where the vehicle is, how to pick it up. Say the car is fueled, it's clean, it has a phone mount. And if you're going to be late by 10 or 15 minutes, just let me know so that I can adjust what I'm doing for my day. Now, post pickup, basically 10 minutes after it started, I'd have another message that goes out that says, okay, is everything good with the car? Wipers, AC, Bluetooth? If anything isn't, let me know so I can assist you. We want to make sure we're putting those in there because, again, we want to basically get as many good reviews as we can. Now, 24 hours before the trip is coming back, put, hey, hope the trip has been smooth. The return is going to be at this location at this time. Please snap a quick picture of the dash and the fuel in miles before you drop it off. Thanks again if I've earned it. Hey, a 5-star review would help me. I'll definitely do the same for you. So that's basically like kind of the framework that you can use for how to get good message or basically good reviews. And that, I would say that kind of concludes the profit lane in 2026, which I would say is economy vehicles. You're doing the proper research on these cars to make sure which ones are doing well. You set up your car so that you're actually adhering to the algorithm and that your vehicle gets rented. And then you want to have those messages in there so that you can get the best reviews as possible. And look, imagine this. This isn't even theory anymore. You want to start this business or you have one, you want help with it. That's what Car Rental Coach is for. And again, if there is a way that we can help you, basically what it looks like, my favorite program that we offer is the one-on-one. It's for people that are serious. We show you how to accomplish your goals, and you also get access to our Slack community where it is only people that are serious about scaling their car rental business. Now, here's the next thing I want to go into, which is that should you actually start, if you are starting, should you start this business this year? Basically, what are the do's and don'ts, such as for budget, your time, and also does your market pass or fail? Does it make sense? And if your market does make sense, basically show you, okay, how can you make $1,000 within 60 days without guessing and actually having a system that works? So let's answer this question. Should you personally start a Turo business this year in 2026? Well, in the next few minutes, I'm basically going to give you a pass or fail checklist that you can score right after this video. And if you pass, then you can roll into launching your business. If it fails, then you'll have to reevaluate to say, does this actually make sense for my time? And my whole aim here is that I want to save you guys time and money, basically, because let's not sugarcoat it. You got to buy a car for this business. It does take a decent bit of time to get it up and running. So let's see if it makes sense for you. Now, most people think that failing on Turo is just not getting enough bookings. And actually a big part of it, which is, did you buy the vehicle the right way? Did you buy it the right way? And then are you actually managing your business where you can profit? Now, let's say what does this actually look like from the numbers to make sure that profit is a reality? So the first thing, just like I talked about, which is acquisition of the vehicle, monthly expenses, and then are you setting aside money for quote unquote surprise expenses, which I wouldn't even say they're surprise expenses because there's always going to be maintenance issues, tires, brakes, windshield, all of those things. You're going to need it. So grab a notebook and let's go into the first part of this, which is acquisition. Now, part one of this is you want to get a car that's going to pay itself off within the next 6 to 12 months. So ideally, I typically like to get cars that are around $7,500 to $12,500, and I want a reliable economy vehicle that is going to consistently bring me in profit. Okay, so let's say you get that vehicle. Typically, what I see across the country, I'd say markets bring in anywhere from like $500 to $1,200 a month. Now, let's say that your vehicle brings in $1,000. There are certain things that you need to budget out for. And I'll kind of give you an idea for my numbers. For between $150 to $250 a month, I have insurance budgeted, car wash, any kind of telematics, parking. I want to make sure that all that stuff is built in there. For maintenance, I like to typically set aside really around like $100 to $200 a month. And this isn't for when maintenance pops up. This is money that I'm setting aside just in case something happens. So then ideally per vehicle, it can grow up to $1,200 or $1,400 for the year for anything that that vehicle would need, right? So if you looked at these things and you scored 3 out of 3, which is that it's like, okay, I have enough money to get this going. I understand what it'll look like and I have the time for this, then great, you're good to go. If you scored 2 out of 3, which is that you don't have the money to buy a vehicle, well, you need money to buy a vehicle, so you're out. If you scored 1 out of 3, well, if you scored 1 out of 3 again, I wouldn't do the business. I'm never going to sugarcoat it for you guys. I mean, I have to tell the truth here. So I'm going to give you guys an idea again so we talked about a little bit of the financial aspect. Let's talk about the time commitment that goes into this. Let's say you get one vehicle within the first 30 to 45 days. This isn't going to be a passive business. I know a lot of people say that on the internet. It's not. There is a lot of active time, effort, energy, and money that has to go into this because you have to learn, what do your pickups and drop-offs look like? How are your automated systems going to work? How are you communicating with guests? You need to see, how is the business even going to run? So I would say a minimum, that first month, you're looking at about 3 to 5 hours per week. And that's about one car. I mean, it's nothing crazy. But if you don't have 3 to 5 hours extra a week, I would not get into this because that is what it's going to take. So I have a client that I'm working with. He's a doctor. Basically, he puts all of his trips on the lockbox system because he really doesn't have a ton of time to meet people and do all of that. So that kind of gives you an example of what it could look like if you don't have a lot of time. But he at least has 3 to 5 hours a week to be able to put into this. So I want you guys to think about it this way. If you are looking at the market and you looked at the financials and you looked at the time and you don't, neither of those things align, then there's basically I would say that's like your do's and don'ts checklist. If you cannot put forth the money to buy a car that's $7,500 to $1,200, $5,000, and you don't have the time to put into this, then I would say it probably doesn't make sense. And I almost forgot about the third thing. So you need to have the time, you need to have the money, and it also has to make sense in your market. When you go and do that market research that I was talking about earlier in this call, if you don't see any demand for vehicles, what does that mean? Let's say you look in your local market and there are no cars available in your area, probably not a good market to do it in. So those would be the 3 things that you need to look at to say, okay, does this even make sense for me? And look, you can do all those things yourself, or we can do it for you. And I'm not even going to get into it again. You guys already know about carrentalcoach.com. But again, I like to save people time and money because it took me 5 years to grow to this point. I have spent tens of thousands of dollars making mistakes. So if you want to skip that, you know where to go. Hit on the old carrentalcoach.com. So now let's get to this, which is the 60-day roadmap launch. Which is okay. You have a car. How do you get this car from nothing to making you ideally between $500 to $1,200 a month? So let's talk about it, from pricing the vehicle out, from getting reviews. What makes sense with deliveries? I really don't think it makes sense. But if you do want to do deliveries, upsell, and then consistently optimizing. So let's say that you've looked at this, you're like, okay, I like what the numbers look like for this business. The do's and don'ts make sense for me. This is a good market for me. So you've passed. This is something that makes sense. So now this is going to be the 60-day launch that I use for my clients to get them up to their first $1,000. And I'm going to try to walk you guys through a system that avoids 90% of the pain that people go through, and really the pain that I went through myself. And again, the big thing that we're going to focus on here, which is going to be, okay, how do we launch this with the proper photos, pricing, discounts, description, messaging, deliveries, upsell, and make sure that we're tracking the proper KPIs, which we did talk about a lot of these things in the beginning of the video, but I kind of want to do a little bit more of a deep dive or reiterate some of those points. So, okay, we're at day 0 right now. You have no business. There's nothing going on yet. What we want to avoid here is how most people get wrecked in the beginning. It's either they have bad photos, they bought a car with a salvage title, they bought a car that has no demand in their area, or there's just no demand in their area in general. We're going to fix that on day 0, which is that we're going to go through that checklist that we just spoke about. See, okay, does it work financially? Does it work from a market perspective? And do I have the time for this? Okay. So all of these things make sense. Now let's talk about, all right, buying a vehicle. So we spoke about that, where the pricing needs to be, the miles, basically the maintenance and everything is up to date. And also we want to make sure the safety stuff is in order. The car has good wipers, it has good tires, good brakes, fluids are all good. We want to make sure that we have 2 keys as well, one that goes in the glove box and then another one that's with us. So now the next thing is that, okay, we have this vehicle, it's good to go. Let's make sure that we get a launch box that we test to make sure that it works. Don't just buy a launch box and pray to God that it works, and somebody's at your car and they're like, oh, hey, Peter, I can't unlock my car. You don't want that. So make sure that you test it to see that it actually works. If any of you guys hear Turo Go on any other people's videos, it's not a thing anymore. It doesn't exist, so don't even worry about it. But okay, make sure your lockbox is in order. Get all your messages and everything for that. Next thing is that you want to create a standard operating procedure for what you're going to do before and after when it comes to the vehicles. So I'll give you an idea of some things that have to go into this. So before, I would say take anywhere from 30 to 60 pictures. You want to make sure that the vehicle is clean. You want to make sure that you take a look at how many miles are on the car and where the gas is at. All right, great. So those are the things that need to happen before the vehicle. Now let's talk about after, when the vehicle comes back. You want to take the pictures immediately before you clean it, so that if you do have to make any kind of smoking claim or any kind of cleaning claim, you can show exactly what the vehicle looked like. After you take those pictures, then you want to clean it. You want to take the before pictures. It has to be within a 24-hour window of whenever your next trip is, but take those before pictures and boom, now the vehicle is ready to go again. So, okay, now you have your SOP process for what's going to happen before and what's going to happen after the trip. Now I want you to make sure that all of your messages are in play. Your before trip, the 10 minutes before, okay, a day before the car is coming back, and then when the car is finished. You want to make sure all of those things are in order so that, number one, it answers a lot of your guests' questions, and number two, saves you a significant amount of time, and number three, also will help you on the review process. Now, another thing, if you do want to do reviews, make sure that it's things that you can actually honor. So if somebody does book it within an hour, that you can actually get the car to them within an hour. And also, where can you realistically drop the car off? If it's an airport that's 30 minutes away, or I don't know, Walmart that's 10 minutes away. Make sure that you can be realistic and charge $50 to $100, please. If you are going to do it, to my knowledge, Turo is discouraging deliveries a little bit because of some things that they're working through with some local municipalities and local governments. Okay, now everything's set up with the vehicle. Let's say that you're making money. Now let's make sure that our P&L and everything is basically in order. We're setting aside money for cleaning, for maintenance, for insurance, for any kind of expenses that we wouldn't be expecting, which is basically what I throw in there for maintenance and any expenses. If you do these things the right way and you follow this system, I'm telling you that I think you could get up between like that $500 to $1,200 a month. And the reason why I keep saying that number is that's typically what I see across the country when I'm doing market reports seeing if this is something that can work for people that are interested in working for us, or not working for us, specifically working with us. So those would be the things that you want to look at to say, okay, this is how I can actually make money. That's the system that we use. Yeah, hope you guys got a ton of value. I tried to make it as clear and as linear as possible, and I'll see you guys on the next one.